The sun was setting, orange and purple hues painted the sky. A young man named Ethan sat on a wooden bench. He was lost in thought. He was worried about his future. An old woman named Eleanor approached. She had a kind smile. Eleanor had an aura of peace. Ethan felt drawn to her energy.
Beautiful evening, isn't it?
Eleanor asked, her voice soft as the breeze. Ethan nodded, surprised by her sudden appearance. He wondered how she seemed so calm. He longed for that same peace. Ethan confessed his worries to Eleanor. She listened with empathy.
Life can feel overwhelming, like a chaotic symphony.
She pointed to the setting sun.
But look closer, Ethan. Nature holds the key.
Ethan was confused. Eleanor smiled.
The sun rises and sets, the tides ebb and flow, the seasons change. Do you see?
Ethan thought for a moment.
They're like clockwork. Exactly. Nature moves in rhythms. These rhythms create balance. We can find that same balance within ourselves.
Eleanor pointed to the birds chirping.
Listen.
She whispered.
Each bird sings its own tune, yet together they create a beautiful melody.
Ethan closed his eyes. He heard the symphony of nature. The chirping birds, the rustling leaves, the gentle breeze. It was harmonious.
Life is like music. It has its own rhythm, highs and lows, fast tempos and slow. We must learn to dance with it.
Ethan thought about his own life, the ups and downs, the successes and failures. He realized it was all part of a bigger rhythm. How do I find that rhythm within myself? Ethan asked, intrigued. Eleanor smiled.
By listening. Listen to your body, your heart, your mind. They will guide you.
She continued.
Our breath is a powerful rhythm. It connects us to the present moment. Focus on your breath, Ethan. Find stillness within.
Ethan closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He felt the air fill his lungs, then slowly release. He repeated this several times. Section 5. The Tides of Emotion. Ethan opened his eyes, feeling calmer, but he still felt confused.
What about my emotions? They feel so chaotic sometimes.
Eleanor nodded understandingly.
Emotions are like the tides. They rise and fall, it's natural. But how do I control them? You don't control them. You acknowledge them. You ride the waves. Just like the ocean always finds its calm, so will you.
Section 6. The Cycle of Day and Night. The cycle of day and night is a fundamental rhythm that governs life on Earth. From the moment the sun rises, casting its golden light across the landscape, to the time it sets, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, this cycle influences every living being. Eleanor pointed to the last rays of sunlight. She marveled at how the day transitioned so seamlessly into night, a reminder of the ever-changing nature of our world.
Day turns to night. The sky, once bright and full of activity, gradually darkens, giving way to the calm and quiet of the night. Stars begin to twinkle, and the moon takes its place, casting a gentle glow over the sleeping world. Activity gives way to rest. The bustling city streets filled with the sounds of life and movement slowly quiet down. Shops close, lights dim, and the once busy avenues become serene and still. This is the natural order. Just as the waves ebb and flow and leaves fall from trees, the cycle of day and night is a constant, unchanging rhythm that we all live by.
Ethan considered his own habits. He often found himself out of sync with this natural rhythm, pushing himself beyond his limits. He often pushed himself late into the night. The glow of his computer screen was a constant companion, and the caffeine from countless cups of coffee kept him going. He rarely took time to rest. His body ached for sleep. His eyes burned from the strain, but he ignored the signs, driven by the demands of his work. He realized he was out of sync with his natural rhythm. The clock on the wall seemed to mock him, its hands moving steadily forward while he struggled to stay awake.
Listen to your body. It whispers to you, telling you when it needs rest and when it is ready to move. Pay attention to these signals. When you're tired, rest. Allow yourself the time to recharge, to let your mind and body recover from the day's exertions. When you are energized, move. Embrace the vitality that comes with the new day and let it propel you forward. Honor your own internal clock. Each person has their own rhythm, their own cycle of energy and rest. Respecting this can lead to a more balanced and fulfilling life.
Ethan knew she was right. He had been ignoring his body's needs for too long, and it was time to make a change. He could feel it in his tired bones. The exhaustion was a constant weight, dragging him down, and he knew he couldn't continue this way. He needed to find a better balance between work and rest. By aligning himself with the natural cycle of day and night, he could achieve a healthier, more harmonious life. Section 7, The Seasons of Being. Eleanor continued, her voice soothing.
Just as nature has seasons, so do we. Times of growth, times of harvest, times of letting go.
Ethan thought about his own life, his graduation, his first job, the loss of a loved one. He realized these were all part of his own personal seasons.
Don't resist the changes, embrace them. Each season brings its own unique beauty and wisdom.
Ethan knew this was true. He had learned valuable lessons from each stage of his life, even the difficult ones. Section 8, Embracing the Flow. Life is a river, Ethan, Eleanor said, her eyes twinkling. It flows ever onward. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's turbulent, but it always moves forward. Ethan looked at the wrinkles on Eleanor's face. He saw the wisdom etched in her features. He knew she had experienced life's many currents. Don't fight the current, Eleanor continued. Learn to swim with it. Trust that you will be guided to your destination. Ethan felt a sense of hope. Maybe he didn't need to have all the answers. Maybe he just needed to trust the journey. Eleanor's words lingered in the air, mingling with the sound of the flowing river. The gentle rush of water seemed to echo her sentiments, reinforcing the idea that life, like the river, has its own rhythm and pace. Ethan thought about the obstacles he had faced, the rocks and boulders that had seemed insurmountable at the time. Yet, just like the river, he had found ways to flow around them, to continue moving forward despite the challenges. Eleanor smiled at him, as if she could read his thoughts. Remember, Ethan, she said softly, every river has its own path. It may twist and turn, but it always finds its way. Ethan nodded, feeling a newfound sense of clarity. He realized that he didn't need to control every aspect of his journey. Sometimes it was enough to simply trust in the process and let the current guide him. As he stood by the river, watching the water flow, he felt a deep sense of peace. The river's journey was a reminder that life is not about fighting against the current, but about embracing it and finding harmony within it. The sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the water. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his worries lift. He knew that, like the river, he would find his way, one step at a time. With a renewed sense of purpose, Ethan turned away from the river, ready to embrace the flow of his own life. He understood now that the journey was just as important as the destination, and that every twist and turn was a part of his unique path. The river flowed on, a symbol of life's endless possibilities, and as Ethan walked away, he carried with him the wisdom of the river, ready to face whatever currents lay ahead. Section 9, The Dance of Life. Life is a dance, Ethan, Eleanor said, a mischievous glint in her eye. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we follow. Ethan smiled. He could see Eleanor dancing in her younger days, her spirit full of life. Don't be afraid to make a misstep, she chuckled. It's part of the fun. Pick yourself up and keep dancing. Ethan realized that perfection wasn't the goal. It was about embracing the journey, missteps and all. Section 10, A Symphony of Experiences. Eleanor looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with kindness. Your life is a symphony, Ethan, a collection of experiences, both big and small. Ethan thought about his own life. The laughter, the tears, the adventures, the heartbreaks, they all wove together to create the tapestry of his story. Embrace every note, Eleanor encouraged. The highs, the lows, the in-betweens, they all contribute to the beauty of your unique song. Section 11, Living in Harmony. As the last rays of sun disappeared below the horizon, Ethan felt a sense of gratitude. The day had been long and filled with challenges, but this moment of peace was a reminder of the beauty that still existed in the world. Eleanor's words had awakened something within him. She had a way of seeing the world that was different, more connected, more in tune with the natural rhythms of life. He realized that life wasn't about forcing, but about flowing. Just like the river that carved its path through the landscape, he needed to find his own way without resistance. He stood up, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. The weight of his worries seemed to lift, replaced by a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. He looked at Eleanor, his heart filled with thanks. She had been his guide, his anchor, helping him navigate through the stormy seas of his emotions.
Thank you, he whispered. His voice was soft, but the sincerity in his words was unmistakable, for helping me hear the music. It wasn't just the melodies of nature, but the symphony of life itself that he had been deaf to for so long.
Eleanor smiled. She had always believed in the power of nature to heal and transform, and seeing Ethan's transformation was a testament to that belief. The music was always there, Ethan. It was in the rustling of the leaves, the babbling of the brook, and the songs of the birds. You just needed to listen. Sometimes, the noise of our daily lives drowns out the subtle harmonies that surround us. Ethan walked away, his steps lighter, his heart full of hope. He felt a renewed connection to the world around him, a sense of belonging that he had been missing. He knew that life would still have its challenges, but he was ready to face them, in rhythm with the universe. With each step, he felt more attuned to the natural world, more in harmony with the ebb and flow of life. Together they walked, side by side, embracing the journey ahead. They knew that as long as they stayed connected to each other and to the world around them, they could face anything. Their bond was strengthened by the shared understanding that life was not a series of obstacles to overcome, but a beautiful dance to be enjoyed. And so they continued their journey, living in harmony with each other and with the world, finding joy in the simple moments and strength in their connection.